Hello and welcome back to all of my amazing subscribers. Thanks for clicking on this video because I know that there are thousands of videos out there and you decided to click on this video. As this is the very first episode of Learning English with the Stories in my channel, and I've just started this and I'm really looking forward to your supports and by liking this video, by sharing this video, you're gonna help me a lot. So we're gonna go through the story. First time I'm gonna read the story for you. You just focus on the vocabularies and the meaning of the story and you just enjoy. And for the second time, I read the story for you and we will go through vocabularies. We will practice some speaking parts. I've prepared some, example sentences for you and we will practice them by using the shadowing technique. Once upon a time, there was an old woman who lived with her 3 sons in a little wooden house on the edge of a dark forest. One year, when winter was coming, the old woman asked her eldest son to go into the forest and chop down a tree for firewood. "Do I have to?" the eldest boy asked. "When it gets really cold, we could all go to bed. Then we wouldn't need to build a fire." "Don't be so lazy," the old woman said. "We can't stay in bed all winter. You're the strongest of my sons, so go and fetch some wood." The oldest boy didn't like hard work, but he finally set off for the forest, carrying the smallest axe he could find. When he got there, he went to the most rotten tree he could see. "This shouldn't be too hard," and he lifted up the axe to start chopping. He had just tapped the tree once when he felt a thump on his shoulder. He turned around and behind him he saw the ugliest, most revolting troll you could ever imagine. The creature had one red eye in the center of his forehead and his purple nose was knobbly and twisted like the root of an old tree. "Hey, you Superman!" shouted the troll. "If you chop down one tree in my forest, I'll break you into 50 pieces." The boy threw down his axe. He ran home as fast as his legs could carry him, and he told his family all about the giant. "Fancy being afraid of a stupid old troll," sneered the second son. "I wouldn't be afraid." The next morning, the second son picked up a bigger axe and set off to fetch some wood. As soon as he got to the forest, he found a large tree that looked like it would make enough wood to last the whole winter. Thug, thug, ah, ah. The sound of his axe echoed through the forest. But before he'd got halfway through the tree, the troll appeared. "Hey, you muscles! What do you think you're doing? You'll lift that axe once more and I'll break you into 100 pieces." "Don't think I'm scared of an old troll like you. You can't frighten me. Oh, I'm going to chop down this tree." "We'll see about that." And he lifted a long arm up into the tree and pulled off a long branch. He snapped it across his knee and started breaking it into tiny twigs. The second brother saw how strong the troll was and ran off home as fast as he could. He was shaking with fear when he arrived home and his elder brother greeted him. "Well, where is all the wood then?" "I met the nasty troll. He chased me out of the forest. He was much too strong to argue with. Why, he was 50 feet. Just then, the old woman's youngest son butt in. "I wouldn't be scared of him. I'm sure I wouldn't. I'll go and fetch the wood." "What? You? You're much too young to chop down a tree. With that trowel, you wouldn't stand a chance. Oh, please, let me go. In the end, despite her fears, the old woman said her youngest son should be allowed to try his luck in the forest. So the next day, the third son picked up the biggest axe in the house. It was so heavy he could hardly carry it. He went to the kitchen cupboard and took out a firm white bowl of cheese. When the brothers saw him putting the cheese into his bag, they laughed. What do you want that for? Are you going to have a picnic with your friend the troll? But the young boy didn't answer. And he went off to the forest, dragging the huge axe behind him. When he reached the forest, he went to the biggest tree he could find. It was about 20 feet thick and so tall he couldn't see the top. He struggled to lift the axe, but he had to let it drop. And yet again the sound brought the troll pounding through the forest. Oh no, not another one! And no more lullaby. If you chop that tree, I'll break you into 1,000 pieces. The boy looked straight at the ugly troll. You just try it, and I'll crush you like I'll crush this stone. As he spoke, the boy took the big white cheese and squeezed it between his hands. The cheese squirted everywhere, and the biggest blob hit the troll in his great red eye. All right, shouted the troll. That's enough. Don't crush me like the stone. You can chop down any trees you want. No, I'll chop them for you if you like. I'll cut them into logs and take them back to your house. From that day on, the troll made sure that the old woman and her family had all the firewood they needed. Now we're going through the text once again, and we will learn some great advanced vocabularies and of course grammar structures that are used in this story. So once upon a time, when you read the stories, you actually see this phrase a lot. Once upon a time means a long time ago. It is mostly used at the beginning of the stories. Once upon a time. So when you want to tell a story, you can use this phrase instead of a long time ago. There was an old woman who lived with her 3 sons in a little wooden house on the edge of a dark forest. On the edge of a dark forest. On the edge means the outer or the furthest point of something. Let me give you an example. They built the church on the edge of the village of a dark forest. One year, when winter was coming, when winter was near, the old woman asked her eldest son. Eldest means being the oldest people, among a family, among the members of a family. Usually between 3 or more people, when you're the oldest, you call yourself eldest. To go into the forest and chop down. Chop down means to cut through something to make it to fall down. So if you cut something to make it to fall down, you're chopping that down. Most of the diseased trees were chopped down last year. Actually, it's a noun and we use it to refer to the wood that we use it as a fuel for making a fire, for starting a fire. We can use those old shelves as firewood. Do I have to? The oldest boy asked. When it gets really cold, we could go all to bed. When it gets really cold, we could all go to bed. Then we wouldn't need to build a fire. Don't be so lazy, the old woman said. We can't stay in bed all winter. You're the strongest of my sons. So go and fetch some wood. The strongest. Here we have a grammar point. When you see est at the end of an adjective and there is the before the adjective, we're using the superlative adjectives. When we want to compare something within a group, we use superlative adjectives. For example, I want to compare my friend Sarah between all of my friends. Like I can say she's the smartest. I'm comparing her with all of my friends, with all of my group mates. So if you want to form a superlative adjective, you just have to realize that the adjective you want to use has one syllable or more than one syllable. So if it has one syllable, like large, you can say it once without any pauses. Large. Strong. Smart. Sad. So you add est at the end of the adjective and you use the before the adjective and you make it superlative. If I want to make the superlative form of the adjective large, how can I make it? I say the largest. The largest. My house is the largest house in our neighborhood. This is the smallest box I've ever seen. I'm comparing this one box, which is very small, the smallest one I've ever seen in my entire life. So I'm comparing this one box with all of the boxes that I've seen. How about adjectives with 3 or more syllables? What happens to them? How do we make their superlative forms? Adjectives like beautiful, beautiful. There are 4 syllables in this adjective. This adjective has 4 syllables. Beautiful. So we can't say beautifulest. It's wrong. We have to say the most beautiful. She is the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. Like adjectives like expensive. Let's count the syllables. Expensive. 3 syllables. We can't say expensivest. Does it sound right to you? No, it doesn't. The most expensive. This is the most expensive phone I've bought. So I have bought many phones for myself, but this one is the most expensive one. So the next word we have here is fetch. Actually, fetch is a word that is mostly used in UK, in British English, and it means to go somewhere and to get something and bring it back. Fetch. Could you fetch my glasses from the other room, please? Could you go and bring my glasses from the other room, please? It's a beautiful word. Like, I have to fetch my mother from the station. So we can use it for people as well. I have to fetch my mother from the station. So I have to go to the station. I have to pick up my mother. I have to bring her back. The oldest boy. So oldest here, the base form of the adjective is old. Here is in superlative form and we say the oldest. Old, it has 1 syllable. The oldest boy didn't like hard work, but he finally set off for the forest. Set off means got ready. He got ready for the forest. When he got there, he went to the most rotten tree he could see. So we have the adjective rotten. Rotten. It has more than 1 syllable. We can say rottest, but actually for adjectives with 2 syllables like happy, rotten, they have two syllables. We can say rottest or happiest. But if it doesn't sound right to you, if it doesn't sound familiar to your ears, just go with the most natural form and use most. The most rotten tree. So, when you lift something up, you just bring it up, you just pick it up. The axe to start chopping. He had just tapped the tree once when he felt a thump on his shoulder. He turned around and behind him he saw the ugliest. So, the ugliest. We have the adjective ugly here. Ugly, it means not beautiful, and it has one syllable, ugly. So if we want to make it superlative, we say the ugliest. Ugliest. The ugliest. Revolting. Revolting means disgusting, bad, extremely unpleasant, and disgusting. I've never eaten such revolting food. So, troll is an ugly creature. Troll. Troll is an, imaginary ugly creature. And it's usually very large or very small, and it's used in stories. The creature or the troll had one red eye in the center of his forehead. So this is my forehead, and in the center of his forehead he had a red eye. And his purple nose was knobbly. So, knobbly is an adjective that is mostly used in the UK or British English. And in US, in American English, we say knobby, knobby. And knobbly or knobby means having lumps on the surface. So, his nose was knobbly. It has lumps on his surface and twisted like the root of an old tree. Hey you, Superman, shouted the troll. Shout means sing with a loud voice. Shouted. Yelled. If you cut one tree in my forest, I'll break you. I'll break you into 50 pieces. The boy threw down his axe. Threw down means drop. He dropped his axe. He ran home as fast as he could, as fast as his legs could carry him. Here, as adjective as fast as. So, when we use this structure as plus adjective as, we are comparing two things that they are equal in some way. The weather this summer is as bad as last year. The weather was bad last year, and this year it's bad again. And we are comparing actually the badness of the weather for 2 years. Legs could carry him, and he told his family all about the giant. Giant, we are referring to the troll because he was very large, he was very big. We use the word giant, very big. Fancy being afraid of a stupid old troll, sneered the second son. I wouldn't be afraid. So, fancy. This is a C2 level word, and it's an old-fashioned word. We don't use it anymore. Maybe you can see it in the movies or stories like this. It means surprising. Wow. Surprising. You're being afraid of a stupid troll. So, we use fancy to express our surprise. Fancy seeing you here. It's a surprise to see you here. Or, they have 8 children. Fancy that. That's a surprise. I wouldn't be afraid. I wouldn't be afraid. Sneered. So, to talk about or to look at someone in an unkind way that is showing you do not respect or you do not approve that person or that thing. So, you may sneer, but a lot of people like this kind of music. Next morning, the second son picked up a bigger axe and set off to fetch some wood. As soon as he got to the forest, he found a large tree that looked like it would make enough wood to last the whole winter. The sound of his axe echoed through the forest. But before he'd got halfway through the tree, the troll appeared. The troll showed up, appeared, became visible. He could see the troll, appeared, showed up. Hey, you muscles, what do you think you're doing? You lift that axe once and I'll break you into 100 pieces. Don't think I'm scared of an old troll. Obviously, he is scared because he is talking while he is shaking. Don't think I'm scared of an old troll. You can't. So, yes, this is showing that he is afraid. He's scared. We'll see about that. And he lifted a long arm. So he had a long arm, the troll. And he lifted his arm up into the tree and pulled off a long branch. So these are branches of a tree, and snap it across. When you snap something across, he snapped that tree across his knee. You snap it on your knee. You snap it across your knee and started breaking it into tiny twigs. So twigs are smaller branches of a tree. Twigs. So twigs are smaller branches of a tree. The second brother saw how strong the troll was and ran off home as fast as he could. He was shaking with fear. Actually, you know what's shaking? This is shaking. My hand is shaking. When it moves too fast or too quick, we call it shaking. So he was shaking with fear. Oh my God. Something like this. Okay. When he reached home and his elder brother greeted him. Well, where's all the wood then? I met the nasty troll. So what is nasty? Nasty means very bad, ugly, unpleasant. A nasty shock, a nasty surprise. It means a bad surprise or, I don't know, an unpleasant surprise that you don't like it. There is a nasty smell in here. Oh my God. So there is a bad smell in here. He was much too strong to argue with. Why, he was 50 feet. He's talking about his height. Just then, the old woman's youngest son. So we have the superlative adjective here. Young, which becomes youngest. Butt in. Interrupt the conversation or someone who is talking. He kept on butting in with his silly comments. I wouldn't be scared of him. I wouldn't be afraid of him. I'm sure I wouldn't. I'll go and fetch the wood. What? You're much too young to chop down a tree. You're too young. It means you're not old enough. You don't have the capability. You don't have the qualifications. With that troll, you wouldn't stand a chance. You won't have a chance. You won't get a chance to cut that tree because you're too young. You can't do that. Despite something means without taking any notice or, being influenced by that thing, just do whatever you want. I still enjoyed the week despite the bad weather. So it was a bad weather, but I still enjoyed the week. I didn't notice the bad weather. I actually ignored the bad weather. Said her youngest son should be allowed to try his luck in the forest. So the next day, the third son picked up the biggest axe in the house. It was so heavy, he could hardly carry it. He went to the kitchen cupboard and took out a firm white ball of cheese. When the brothers saw him putting the cheese into his bag, they laughed. Because they didn't understand what he was doing. They didn't get the point. So they laughed. What do you want that for? Are you going to have a picnic with your friend Troll? But the young boy didn't answer. And he went off to the forest, dragging dragging the huge axe. Huge means very big, large. Dragging the huge axe. So drag means to move something by pulling it on the surface. So to move something by pulling it along the surface, usually the ground. Pick the chair up. Instead of dragging it behind you, pick that up. When he reached the forest, he went to the biggest tree he could find. It was about 20 feet thick. So thick. It was about 20 feet thick. And so tall he couldn't see the top. He struggled to lift the axe, but he had to let it drop. It was really hard for him to move the axe because it was so huge he couldn't move it. And he had to let it drop. So he would hardly lift up the axe and chop the tree, but he had to let it drop. And yet again the sound brought the troll pounding through the forest. So the troll was walking through the forest, through his house, and the sound he heard, because the youngest son was cutting the tree, he went to the youngest son. Oh no, not another one. Oh no, not another one. And no more than a boy. He's just a boy. If you chop that tree, I break you into 1,000 pieces. The boy looked straight at the ugly troll. So this sentence is showing the braveness. This sentence is showing how brave is the youngest boy. He looked straight at the troll. He wasn't afraid. You just try it and I'll crush you. So he picked up the cheese and he held it in his hands. You just try it and I'll crush you like I'll crush this stone. And he spoke while he was speaking, the boy took the big white cheese and squeezed it. So it was the cheese and he squeezed it between his hands. So squeeze means to press something firmly because you want to change it in the shape. And the cheese squirted everywhere. To force a liquid or to make a liquid to flow out in the air. All right. The troll was scared now. Shouted the troll, "That's enough, don't crush me like that stone. You can chop down any trees you want." "No, I'll chop them for you." He even suggested that he would help the boy and chop the trees for him. I'll cut them into logs and take them back to your house." From that day on, the troll made sure that the old woman and her family had all the firewood they needed. So it was actually because of the youngest boy who was very brave, who was very couraged, who was very bold, that the troll helped them, and he was afraid of him. So now we want to practice some actually patterns that were in the story, and we worked on them. Actually, there were some, hard vocabularies in the story. And I've just separated them and I've made some examples with them for you. We want to practice those examples. The first time I say the example, you try to repeat what I said, exactly what I said, with the exact intonation and pronunciation that I used. Even you have to repeat and mimic my pauses. This is called shadowing. So first I go. He put pink icing around the edge of the cake. He put pink icing around the edge of the cake. The next sentence. So I say it twice and you repeat it twice. I hit my leg on the edge of the table as I walked past. So as you can say, I hit. I don't say I hit. It's wrong. I hit my leg on the edge, on the edge, on the edge, on the edge of the table. I don't say of. I say of. On the edge of the table as I walked past. So I don't say I walked past. The T and D are, very softly pronounced. As I walked past. You just don't hear them at all. So I hit my leg on the edge of the table as I walked past. Shall I fetch some tea for you? Shall I fetch some tea for you? So I didn't say some, I say some tea. I don't say for, I say for you. That was it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed and you loved this video. Bye bye for now.